Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Anchorage Ice Tigers draft glory, MyNBA, here in NBA 2K26. So last episode, if you did not catch it, we won our first championship as we managed to sweep the Charlotte Hornets in a pretty convincing series for us, so it was great to see. We kind of expected it, but we didn't want to say it because obviously we expected to beat Dallas last year in the first round, and we ended up getting beat by them. We managed to obviously beat them this year in the conference finals, so a little bit of a different outcome, which is great to see. And I'm hoping that obviously this team can continue to build upon this championship and maybe find a way to win multiple, because we still have a very good looking roster on paper. And I am expecting some growth from some guys on our team because we are still relatively a young team when we look at a roster on paper. You can see obviously Evans is only 22 years old, so he could definitely lead this team to more championships. Wright's only 26, same with Semenko. Bishop's already 29, Carroll's already 30, so those two guys are a little bit on the older side of things. I do expect guys like Carroll and Bishop to eventually start to drop off soon. Westbrook's 27, so I don't know if he's going to get really much better. I think we saw some drop off from him last offseason, so I'm not too sure what he's going to be doing in terms of this offseason. But guys like Goodwin should be able to grow a little bit more still too, so I think we're going to have a really good looking roster again next season, and I do fully expect this team to dominate again next year. Now, the only problem about having a really good starting seven is basically a lot of these younger guys don't really get the playing time that they deserve, which kind of sucks. So I don't know if Washburn gets a lot of growth, is he going to push somebody like Lloyd out of our lineup, or is he going to push this other Carroll out of our lineup? If Bridges gets a lot of growth, is he going to push somebody out of the lineup? So it's going to be interesting to see who is ending up still with the team next season. I think we'll probably end up letting go of some guys like Buchanan, for instance, who is not going to really get much playing time here. But I do expect our team to be pretty good again next season for the most part, since mostly everybody is locked up on a long-term deal, except for obviously the main one being Evans, who's going to need a ton of money this offseason. But obviously we're willing to give it to him, considering he's been one of our best players up to this point in time. Was fantastic for us in the playoffs, and a big reason why we ended up winning. As you can see, he was the NBA Finals MVP, and he was also, I think, the Conference Finals MVP too, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's been an absolute superstar player for us, and we need to have him on a long-term deal. And I kind of want him to retire as a member of the Anchorage Ice Tigers if we possibly can. So anyways, with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into the entire offseason and see what we end up drafting and what our team looks like going into next season. So the first comment is from Nick Bucket Barons OC, who says, spoiler warning, and then a bunch of space in between so you guys actually, again, don't get spoiled. And then he says, we are the champions, my friend. And yes, sir, we kind of felt like it was going to happen this year based on how we dominated the regular season. Obviously, we did run into some tough teams in this playoff run, but we're lucky in a way that the Charlotte Hornets were the team that got to the finals. Like, I think if we would have played the 76ers, it definitely could have been a tougher task for our team to win. Like, we could have maybe won in 7 games instead. But the Charlotte Hornets really surprised a lot of the higher end teams on that eastern side of things, and that made it a lot easier for us to win as the finalist in the Western Conference. So hopefully we end up facing some easy teams again when we get back to the finals again, because I do expect this team fully to get back to a finals again soon. But if we run into a tough team, that's when obviously we could end up losing in the finals rather than winning. So hopefully some of these teams like Philadelphia, Indiana, and Washington drop off a bit, because I know Washington's got some really good players like Bernard Russell. Indiana has like Rodney Bowen, if I remember right, and then Philadelphia's just been a strong team the last few years. They've won 2 titles in a row, and then obviously this year they just lost in the conference finals. So hopefully some of these Eastern Conference teams tend to drop off a little bit, and hopefully we keep on getting even better and better, so that way we can find a way to obviously win like maybe multiple championships in a row. Next comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, best in the West, best in the world. Anchorage, you're on the map. You're the NBA champions. And yeah, Anchorage, I mean, is always on the map, but it's kind of interesting, I think, because obviously this is the furthest north championship since obviously the Raptors won technically, and the furthest north championship of all time, I guess, because obviously Alaska is a lot farther north than technically Canada is. It's kind of closer to Russia when you think about it. So kind of neat to be obviously the furthest north championship in basketball history. Obviously, there's no other team that's relatively close, like I said, except for Toronto. But Toronto's obviously not even that far north when you look at it compared to Anchorage, Alaska. But Yeah, really cool to see that Anchorage is making itself a name for it. Obviously, we are still listed, I think, as like a small market team. Yeah, we're still a small market team, so obviously, like that's going to be an interesting thing. Like, how was the championship parade? I wonder if it was in Anchorage. I know Anchorage isn't full on snow all the time, but I wonder what the parade was like since Anchorage is a pretty damn small place. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Like, what is the population actually of Anchorage? Let's see, population Anchorage, because I honestly don't even know. It is looking like 289,000 people. So it's literally like a quarter of the size of Ottawa where I live currently. So that is definitely pretty small, 289,000. It's not small, but it is pretty small compared to some of these other cities where obviously they have over 1 million people easily. So kind of neat that we get to bring a championship and have a parade for 289,000 people. Maybe more would come from other areas. Who knows? But that's pretty neat to put Anchorage on the map. And the last and final comment is from The Real Divinity, who says, yes, I knew it. I was watching since it was posted, but I got distracted playing NHL. Checked back and finished it. I expected it 100%. Haven't been as active in commenting, but I'm very excited to see this finally happen. LOL, let's go. Dynasty achievement unlocked. And yeah, even though you didn't check for a while, obviously it's been a really good run building this team up. Like, obviously, we started off this series pretty, like, if we go back actually to our team history and we go back to year by year, this team has really just started to build itself up these last number of years. Like, we go back to the very beginning, like, obviously we made the draft mistake, but then this is when the full-on draft category actually began. We only won one game, went up to 9 games to 14 to 27, fell back in 2031 a little bit to 23 wins, then jumped up to 42, and we actually made the playoffs that year. Then jumped up to 64 wins, so that was an absolutely huge jump for our team. And then lastly, obviously, 68 wins, and then 71 this year. So our team has really just been getting in better and better every single season for the most part, except for that one drop off. So I think our team could end up even up. What is it? Upselling this a little bit. The 71 win season is fantastic, but I think we could honestly have one of the best seasons in like league history. Like maybe a 75 win season if this team stays healthy enough next year. Like, I think Evans is going to potentially continue to grow. I think guys like Rex Wright can continue to grow. Maybe some of our bench players continue to grow. Like, I definitely think our team will even get better from this type of record, which is kind of surprising. I don't know if we'll ever achieve more than 71 wins, but if we somehow do, that'd be awesome. But I do expect to have some injuries and hiccups throughout the season. But our team has definitely been really impressive, and I'm really glad that we were able to get ourselves already a championship. And I hope that, like I said, we could get ourselves a couple more as well. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into the offseason, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, like I said, the big contract we got to dish out this year is to Evans. Obviously, he's going to cost us a lot, but he's going to be worth it. And then hopefully this draft class, we could find somebody decent. I honestly don't even know what we need to draft in terms of our players. If I do let go of Buchanan, technically, he is technically our third string point guard, so I don't really need him in a way. So I'll probably end up letting him go. We could probably draft another shooting guard because Kolomak really doesn't have any potential. So I probably would look maybe at a shooting guard this year. Small forward, we have a lot of already. Power forward, we kind of have a lot already. Even if we let go of somebody like Lloyd, we still have a lot. And in centers, we probably could use still another backup center, but Oliveira does have okay potential. So I think the one thing I need the most maybe is shooting guards. So maybe that's what we'll look into in this year's draft class. So I'll see what we end up finding here, but I'm not really expecting us to pick up too much good stuff because we're going to be drafting super late. So anyways, with that said, let's get to this offseason and see what ends up happening. I forget who's retiring this year because there was somebody, I think, with a farewell tour, if I remember right. But let's see who it is. So, okay, Karl Anthony Towns is the big one. He retires with the Dallas Mavericks after we just beat them in the conference finals, so shout out to him. Devin Booker also retires. Brandon Ingram. De'Aaron Fox is retired. Luka Doncic is retired. Damn, some big names this season. Sexton's retired. Trae Young's retired. Keegan Murray and Mark Sears, who is, I think, is he a real dude? It says he's undrafted. I think he must be a real dude if he went. He's 33 at this point. Walter Reese is already retired. Holy crap. Wow. That's interesting. Walter Reese we let go of last offseason. Yeah, I think it was last offseason or 2 off seasons ago. He's already retired at the age of 27. So you could definitely see that we might end up losing some players to retirement relatively soon. Like I said, like guys like Carroll and all that. But Walter Reese retiring after a couple years as a free agent is really surprising to me. So anyway, shout out to him. He was decent here for, I think, 1 season, right? For his first few years were pretty good, and then obviously he dropped off a lot, didn't get a lot of playing time. So shout out to him. Only a 66 at 27 is not very good. Any other names that I recognize that I drafted or played for a little bit? I don't think so. The rest of these guys were probably just a bunch of like filler guys. Some of them only played like 1 year pro, so some decent names in terms of players, but obviously only one of them used to play with us, which is good that we didn't lose anybody, but I don't really expect to lose anybody maybe for a few seasons still, unless they get like a career-ending injury, of course. But staff retirements, let's see, the Spurs head coach, or not head coach, assistant head coach Sean Sweeney has retired. Oscar Fleming, the head scout of the Pistons, is retired. Johnny Bryant, the assistant head coach of the Cavs, is retired. I think he was a former player too. Wyatt Mills, the assistant GM of the Timberwolves, is retired. Walter Hall, the team doctor for the Trailblazers, is retired. And Mark Daigneault, the head coach of the Thunder, is retired. So that's a pretty big one for them. A bunch of other free agent coaches and stuff like that. Celtics CFO and Samuel Olson is retired. Jordan Malone, the CFO of the Knicks, is retired. Joshua Willis, CFO of the Rockets. Raptors assistant GM is Samuel Brown has retired. Michael King, why do I remember that name? Did we ever have him on a coaching staff? I don't think so. I don't know why I recognize that name, though. Thunder's team doctor also has retired, Sean Navarro, but a lot of just free agent coaches and stuff like that. Warriors head scout Connor Lee has retired. Doug West, the assistant head coach of the 76ers, has retired. Damn, there's a lot of coaching staff retirements every year. We lost Dale Law, our assistant GM. He has retired already, so we will need a new assistant GM in this offseason. But at least it's not our coach. And Dennis Bass, the assistant GM of the Rockets, has retired. I hope our coach doesn't retire at any point, because our coach is, I think, getting up there in age a bit, but he is definitely a great fit for our team, and that's definitely one thing that could make our team go from being really good to maybe not as good. So let's get into Hall of Fame inductees. Luka Doncic obviously making the Hall of Fame, not a surprise. Same with Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and Trae Young has made the Hall of Fame. All right, so 4 Hall of Famers in 2035. Jersey retirements, I expect all those guys as well. Devin Booker has his number retired by the Suns after playing there for 20 years. Trae Young has his number retired by the Atlanta Hawks after 18 seasons, 16 seasons? No, not 16 even. 14 seasons? I don't even know the math. God damn. Yeah, 14 seasons, I think that is. Karl Anthony Towns has a number retired by the Knicks and by the Timberwolves. Obviously, he was with the Timberwolves for just under 10 years, and he was with the Knicks for 10 years in this universe. And then Luka Doncic doesn't have his number retired by the Lakers, but he has it retired by the Clippers after he played there for 7 years. And Dallas also retires his number, even though he was only there for a short 6 years, because Nico Harrison's stupid as shit. But that's kind of interesting that he didn't have his number retired by the Lakers. All right. So there is all of that. Terms of league meetings. There has been some stuff that got approved. I'm not too sure if I will let it stay approved, but let's see what we got here. So odds of obtaining a top 3 pick are based on the team's final record. That got rejected. But one that got approved, the draft lottery. The top 5 picks are done via random weighted draw. Remaining lotto picks are determined by team record. So basically, if you have a top 5 selection, it's basically a draw for first overall, but everybody that's outside of that top 5 would have to be in the order of their team record from the regular season, which is interesting. But I feel like I would prefer there to be a chance for teams that randomly are like, say, maybe like 12th or something like that to have a chance and get first. They won't have a huge odds at jumping up, but I am going to actually just set that to reject, but that's kind of one that could be approved eventually down the road, I think. Have the trade deadline occur 1 week later, it got rejected, even though that would be kind of nice in a way for the teams that do trade, and these ones got rejected as well, so it doesn't really matter. But this one, I think, could make sense. Like, I could have left it approved, but I think for the time being, I'll keep it like that. Because obviously, if you finish as like the 6th worst team, it would kind of suck just to stay at 6. But if you finish 6 and nowadays, you'd actually have a chance to still get that first overall pick. So I think just because this is a draft of glory, I'm going to reject that. But if it was a normal series, maybe it would make sense for us to have it on. So let's advance. And now it's the draft lottery. Obviously, we don't have a draft lottery selection, but I'm kind of curious on who's going to end up winning it. So here is the odds for all the teams, just in case you guys wanted to take a look at this. Trailblazers have very good odds from apparently a trade with Cleveland. Rockets have a very good odds with the trade from OKC. And then that's basically it. I wonder, though, if those are lottery protected selections or not. But Anyways, Suns, Trailblazers, and Nuggets have the best odds at first overall. Let's find out who ends up winning the draft lottery. The winner of the draft lottery will be the Rockets. All right, so Rockets get the first overall pick from a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I don't know what trade did that, but that's pretty insane. And then the Trailblazers have second and third in the draft. The second pick was from Cleveland. The third was their original pick. So the Trailblazers will be able to draft two really good players in this class, if this is actually a good draft class. And then obviously we're drafting at 31st, so we're going to be drafting dead last, but hopefully we can find ourselves some random steal there. But shout out to the Trailblazers, who are going to get two really good players probably in this draft class. So there's that. We'll advance. And then we'll take a look at some staff signings. Obviously, we do need a new assistant. No, actually, our assistant GM. Oh, it was a CFO that we needed, right? Yeah, and we need a new team doctor, apparently. So let's grab ourselves a good team doctor if possible, because obviously that way we could stay healthy for longer terms. So we should be able to get a lot of these coaches pretty easily and stuff like that because of the fact that we just won a championship, I would assume. So hopefully that is the case. We also do need a CFO, as I said. So this is just business rating. This guy looks a little bit better. Let's bring in this guy as our CFO. And we'll see if they accept that. Hopefully they do. And they're tentative. And they both rejected. God damn. I am really surprised that they both rejected. You think they would want to join a team that just won a championship, but maybe not. Now, we should be able to get these other ones pretty easily, because usually you get your second chance on these guys. So let's try and get a good doctor still. We'll get Mr. John Hamm. Are you kidding me? Is this supposed to be like the actor John Hamm or what? Sleep doctor. What the heck? John Hamm. Isn't that an actor like that's literally like a St. Louis Blues fan or something like that? I'm almost certain. I don't know if that's a generated name or if they actually put him in there as like kind of like a joke or something, but that's funny. Okay, and John Hamm declined right away. Why is John Hamm declining? He's still there though, so let's try and give him more money. Maybe he just wants to be a free agent or something. Come on, John Hamm, join the team. Join the team. And there you go, he'll sign. So yeah, we do have John Hamm, and it's definitely a generated guy because that doesn't look like the actor, I don't think. But let's just open the staff card so I could get a screenshot of that, just to see if the spelling is the same. I don't know if the first name is spelled the same. I think it might be a bit different, but still kind of funny. All right, so we got our coaching staff, of course, all set up with, which is good. Let's head to the draft combine. Like I said, I don't really know if we're going to even grab something any super good. But let's take a look at anyways the best prospects in certain areas. So best in 3-quarter sprint is going to be Cecil Page. Best in lane agility is Vin Morgan. Best in vertical, Jesse Law, Cameron May. Best in benching is going to be Zach Red with a 29, which is much better than everybody else. So that guy's really strong, I guess. Best standing 15-foot jump shot is Isaac Miles, as well as Rod Hunt, Drew Nash as well. Moving is going to be Dave Geiger. I don't even know how it's pronounced. Drew Nash as well. Cecil Page again, or Cecil Page, I should say, I guess. Blake Jameson. Standing is going to be Joshua Hendricks, as well as Lance Winston, Donald Hilliard, and Vin Morgan. Moving is going to be just Donald Hilliard. Standing is going to be Robin Neely. And moving is going to be Isaac Miles. All right. Yeah, I honestly don't even know really what I'm going to grab, but let's do our pre-draft workouts, and I think we're just going to send them all to a bunch of shooting guards because we probably need shooting guards the most. I think that's the one area I would look at the most. So let's just send all these shooting guards and just see a bunch about them. Hopefully not all these guys go before our selection, but the fastest shooting guard is Randy Drew. The best in lane agility is Daryl Cobb. Best in vertical, Lucas Jenkins. Best in benching is Daryl Cobb. And then it's Randy Drew again, tied with Benjamin Gibson and Lucas Jenkins. Moving is going to be Carlton Vaughn. Then it's Isaac Miles, Carlton Vaughn, Lance Winston. Carlton Vaughn again. Matt Purdue. And Neil Caldwell. So, Carlton Vaughn might be actually decent too as an option. We'll see who we end up taking as our late rounder. Depends on, I guess, if anything goes before our pick. But let's get into this draft. Like I said, we don't draft till 31, so we are going to enable auto draft advancement. So that way, actually, should I keep my face up here? I guess I can. Let's enable auto draft advancement so we can see one pick at a time. Actually, never mind. I'm just going to move my face down here. I think that's probably a better spot during this draft. So let's see what the Rockets take at first overall. I'm surprised to have the first overall selection. They make a trade. They have traded the first overall pick. Wow. All right. That's not what I was expecting. So Rockets, they were a really good team last year. They made the playoffs, but they fell off. I think they lost in the play-in round. So they make an absolute substantial trade. They trade the first overall pick and a first round pick, lottery protected in 2 years. They bring in Evan Mobley, which is a huge player to add from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they also add Okan Baruch, who is a 85 overall shooting guard. So that is a substantial trade for them. Because now Mobley playing next to Simon Lydon and stuff like that, that's pretty insane. So that's a really big trade there, as the Cavs now have the first overall selection. Wow, was not expecting that. Anyways, the Cavs at number 1 takes small forward Johnny Buchanan. All right, so he's the first overall pick. Portland now on back-to-back will take Artie Stokes, who's also a small forward from Australia. All right, and then they also take shooting guard Isaac Miles, who is one of those guys that I think we sent for workouts too. The Knicks at number 4 are going to select Jordan Harrington as a power forward. Suns are now on the clock at 5. They take Vin Morgan, who's a point guard. We saw Vin Morgan as well, I think. Denver Nuggets next will take Joshua Hendricks as a center. Maybe a future Jokic right there, who knows. Brooklyn takes small forward Ed Holmes. So a lot of small forwards and stuff going early. Next up, the Toronto Raptors are going to select at 8th Greg D. Bender as a small forward. Don't even think I saw that guy in the class, but I wasn't really paying attention to small forwards. Al Fox heading to the Grizzlies as a center. It's kind of funny seeing a Fox head to the Bears, basically. Point guard William Cheatham, what a name, going to the Clippers. Next up, the Orlando Magic at 11 will select, no, they will make a trade. Orlando has traded number 11 and Jalen Green to the New York Knicks for Irvin Harden, who is a center and a first-round pick lottery protected in 2036. So basically a pick swap and then a center for a shooting guard, I guess. Not as big of a deal as that first one, of course. All right, so the Knicks are now on the clock at 11. They take power forward Derek Paxson with that selection. Next up, we have the Rockets on the clock again. Last time they traded a pick, and now they traded a pick again. They have traded 12th overall to the LA Lakers for A.J. Johnson, who is a shooting guard and a second rounder. So the Rockets are loading up, which is interesting. I wonder how good they're going to do next year, because they're definitely one of those type of teams that could threaten our playoff chances, are getting really far, because obviously Simon Lydon's an absolute beast, but they have been adding some really good players here at this draft in the trade, and they're not even using their own selections, which is kind of exactly what I'd anticipate them to do. Considering last year they had a bit of a down year in the playoffs. So there we go. That's another trade. A lot of trades happening. Lakers take shooting guard with that pick, Daryl Cobb. So that's another guy we had looked at. Bulls are now on the clock. They will select point guard Melvin Carroll. So another Carroll on there in this draft class. Golden State next is going to make a trade with that pick. Damn, everybody's trading their picks. First round, 14th overall for a first rounder next year. So it's just a pick swap. Basically, I guess Golden State doesn't think they're really going to get anything there, so they traded to OKC, and they get a first rounder next year, which is not even lottery protected. So that's interesting. But OKC probably still has a good team, I would assume. OKC on the clock will select Zach Redd as a center. 7'5". Holy crap. That might be the tallest guy we've seen to this date. Randy Drew, the shooting guard, heading to the Bucks, but a 7'5" player is insane, man. Lakers on the clock again. They will trade this selection. They will trade it to the Charlotte Hornets. And Larry Wells, who I think we played against in that playoffs or in that finals potentially, gets dealt to the Lakers with a second round pick. So the Charlotte Hornets are offloading some players after their championship loss. I don't really know what the reason for it is, but Larry Wells, I don't think was an absolutely crazy good player. He's a 77, it says, but I can't remember what his point per game was like. So that's an interesting deal right there. So Charlotte's on the clock now. What are they going to select? They select Carlton Vaughn. So there's that guy. Carlton Vaughn looked pretty decent to me. So that's a nice pick. And then they're back on the clock again, and they select power forward Cameron May. So they had a back-to-back selection. And now the Lakers are back on the clock as they take center Dustin Newman. Then you have the Atlanta Hawks at 19 selecting shooting guard Matt Purdue. So a lot of the shooting guards are going before pick, unfortunately. Spurs will be trading their selection here at 20 to the New York Knicks, as well as 51st. and Jalen Green going the opposite direction. So has Jalen Green been dealt 2 times? I think so, right? Because I thought he was dealt in an earlier trade too, if I'm not mistaken. So Jalen Green on his way to the Spurs for basically both picks of this year for the Spurs, unless they have some other picks too. But there you go. So the Knicks are back on the clock again. They select power forward Igor Alanchev from Russia. Or maybe it's Alinichev, I'm not too sure. Boston will select point guard Donald Hilliard, which we saw about him a little bit, I think. Pistons now on the clock select center Jay Sean Maxwell. What a name, Jay Sean. Next up, we have the Miami Heat with Scott Erickson, the point guard. And now the Pacers, we're getting closer to our selection. Power forward Lex Edwards heads to the Pacers. Minnesota, 25 will select power forward Wallace Oliver from Baylor. Utah at 26 will select power forward Homer Best. Homer Best is a funny name. New Orleans next at 27 will trade their selection as well. They trade 27th and second, or their second rounder next year, 2 years from now, for Keon Paul, who is a power forward. I don't know his overall, but interesting them adding a power forward. Next up on the clock is Golden State because that deal, they take Cecil Page. So there goes Cecil or Cecil Page, one of the two. Next up, the Dallas Mavericks select Harold Banks, the center, only a 6'9" center. Washington Wizards will select shooting guard Lance Winston. And then we have the 76ers, and then we're finally on the clock. Leslie Rowe, the small forward, going to the 76ers. So now we're on the clock with our selection. And the real question is, what do we take at this point? We were thinking about shooting guards in this draft a lot because we don't really need small forwards. We could probably use a point guard as well that plays shooting guard, but this guy doesn't play shooting guard. Let's take a look at these. All-NBA and bench. So he could be like Dennis Johnson or Tyrone Lue. Neil Caldwell is just basically like Lonnie Walker, apparently, just bench and bench, so nothing crazy. Benjamin Gibson, starter bench. Dan Margelli, Margel? I don't know who that even is. Jaren Jackson is a bench. RJ Hammonds is already 23, starter bench. Those guys aren't interesting. And then there's Robin Neely as well, starter bench. D'Angelo Russell and Brandon Knight. Any weakness on him? Slow to grasp new offenses. Is there anybody that's good at perimeter defense? Solid man defense? I guess so. Trying to think of what I want the most. I feel like taking Henry Anderson's probably the best option. He is a point guard only, but we could also use him as a shooting guard. It's his all-NBA bench, so I feel like he could be the best option. Because Caldwell is probably just a bench option, which is not nothing crazy. Benjamin Gibson, starter bench isn't bad, and it is more of a shooting guard position. He doesn't actually play point guard. Lacks consistency, but he has good vertical leap. Plays above the rim. Do I want to take Henry Anderson? I think I might take Henry Anderson. He's from Sweden, so he is a European player. I think he's probably the best option. He's only 20 years old as well. Because I don't need a small forward, really. This guy actually can play shooting guard as well as a small forward, so maybe we could actually draft him too. He actually is a good defender, but not a great offensive player. Rod Hunt, not the best in either. He's only a bench. And then Henry Anderson, I think that's got to be Henry Anderson. I probably could use him still as a shooting guard, even though he's just a point guard. So I think I'm going to go for the Swede and Henry Anderson potential. Let's just go to this other stuff and see what it's listing its potential as, maybe. B-. That's not bad. What about some of these other dudes? C+, OJ, Neal, C+. Yeah, I think it's got to be Henry Anderson. B+ potential maybe for Caldwell, but he doesn't look that great in terms of his potential based on what we've seen. So that's a bit of a risk. C- is pretty trash. RJ Hammonds was a B+ maybe. RJ Hammonds is already 23 though. I don't like that. And we don't need centers. Yeah, I think we're going to go for the Swede in Henry Anderson. And hopefully he is decent. So let's take Henry Anderson. And like I said, I'll probably end up using him more as a shooting guard, but he could play point guard as well and just basically replace Buchanan, because at this point, Buchanan isn't going to grow much. So let's see what they say about our Swede in Henry Anderson. There isn't a lot of game tape on available on Henry Anderson. From what I've seen of him, he looks like the best to be a team player that can move the ball around the court and isn't afraid to take a shot when needed. I think the Ice Tigers can rest easy on this one. So he's all around an okay player. I guess he's a good passer too. So I'm excited to see what he is. I don't think he's going to be anything crazy, but I think there wasn't really much out there at our selection. So let's assimilate to our next pick at the end of the entire draft and see what we could snag up here at the very end. I don't really expect too much at this point, but we will probably take an actual shooting guard here if there is one, which it doesn't look like there is. Most of these guys look like they have really bad potentials too. Who is the highest scouted player? Russ Canady, but he's a D+ overall, it looks like. So it's got to be probably like, we could probably use a third center, I guess, technically, if one of the other guys is Pano. This guy's 6'11". What's his potential? Maybe D+. Oof. Is there anybody that actually might have an okay potential here? Let's just skim through this. I am not seeing anybody with anything better than a D+ potential at this point. Can I see their potentials by scoring over here? No, I can't. What if can I change any of this? No, I guess I can. I thought I would be able to like change like attributes so I could actually see everybody's attributes right here, but I guess not. I guess we'll just go for Tim Morgan with the selection. I honestly have no idea at this point, but let's take him. See what they say about him. Widely regarded as the best metric for true basketball speed and ability to cut, the lane agility drill was dominated at the draft combine by this man, Tim Morgan. Apparently he's very fast, but is that something we need? I honestly have no idea. So that is the entire draft. Now let's take a look at what went in this draft. So the Cavs got a really good player with Buchanan, of course, 81 overall. Trailblazers got 275s in Stokes and Miles. This draft class actually looks kind of weak because Cheatham was a top 10 pick and he was only a 69. So we might not have had much options. Maybe that's why a lot of teams are trading their picks. Carroll's a really solid selection. 76 at 18 for this guy for the Bulls. What's his potential, though? Kind of curious on that. C+ potential. Oh, my. Yeah, I can kind of see this draft class not looking that good then. Because, yeah, most of these guys probably don't really have much potential, I would assume. But maybe there is somebody here that's going to surprise us, I guess. Maxwell is a 75. Erickson's 70. Where is our boy right at the end? 71 at 20. Might not be bad. Let's take a look at Anderson here. So his inside scoring is not very good. His mid-range scoring is decent, actually pretty solid. Three-point shooting, not very good. Playmaking is pretty solid. Perimeter defense is great. Let's go. That's actually really nice. I like that a lot because we actually are a perimeter defense team, right? So he might actually fit our team quite well. Post defense, not that great. Rebounding, not that great. Athleticism is good. Basketball IQ is actually not bad. And potential's a B-. I think we made a really good selection for the last pick in that first round. So I definitely think that's a major win. Obviously, the second rounder is probably not going to be as good, but Henry Anderson is definitely going to replace Buchanan for sure. And maybe he's going to be a guy that could grow. He's already a 71 too. So, yeah, he's already better overall-wise than him. The only problem is I don't know how I get these guys playing time on a team like ours. But hopefully they can. All right, in terms of the second rounder, we did get Tim Morgan, who is a 69 at 22. So a little bit lower end, of course. He does have good post defense and great rebounding. But aside from that, nothing really else. And he only has D+ potential. So I don't expect him to play at all, but he would be our third string center for this team. All right. Well, at least our first rounder was good. That guy's really good, like I said, at rebounding that second rounder, but I don't really think he's going to become much of anything. So, how good was RJ Hammonds out of curiosity? B potential. Okay, so he actually has some potential too. I was kind of curious on those guys. All right. So that is the draft. Let's head to the rookie signings, and I guess we'll sign both of them, considering it says to sign both of them, but I don't know if I should sign Tim Morgan as the thing, because he's not really much of anything. Let me take a look at our roster here, because we'd have to let go of two people to sign both of them. Obviously, we're going to sign our first rounder for sure, which, like I said, I let go of Buchanan. Who else would I let go of, basically? I'm not getting rid of Olivero. I think I'm going to actually not sign Tim Morgan, who we just drafted. Should I sign him? You know what? Let's sign him both, and then if I have to, maybe we'll just cut him. I'm not too sure, but team and player options. It's telling me to decline on Kolomac and on Carroll. I'm not going to decline on Carroll. Actually, 9.36 is a lot for 75, but he's useful, kind of. Do I need Carroll back? That's an interesting one, actually. Kolomac, I think for sure is a guy that I don't really see staying here long term. He doesn't have much potential anyways. Barely got to play with us last season. Bridges obviously was a first round pick, so we'd like to hold on to him probably. And then Edward Carroll was a first rounder as well. I feel like we should hold on to Edward Carroll. Yeah, I think I'm going to hold on to him. So let's advance on that. And then let's see. Wow, Chip Parker declined his contract thing with the Hornets, it looks like. So Chip Parker might be headed to the free agent market, which is interesting. I wonder where he'll sign, which will be crazy because Charlotte just got to a finals and now he might be a free agent. So, and Patton, wasn't he also one? Yeah, he was. He was also a Hornet. That's what I thought. And so the Charlotte Hornets honestly might have just lost two really solid players. Actually, but no, Patton says accept, so never mind. Parker's the only one I think that's actually going to go to free agency out of the two of them, but there you go. Qualifying offers. We're not going to extend, obviously, Kelvin Buchanan, even though he has had some good games in the past. We are definitely sending a qualifying offer, though, to the rest of these guys. So let me write down their names so I can make sure I could maybe give them longer contracts. So Goodwin, Evans, of course, and Oliviero. So we'll send those guys all some contract offers and see if they accept. If they don't, yeah, we already got to give Evans this long-term deal. We got to negotiate here. 5-year deal, $42 million season. He has a lot of interest in it. We're already just going to offer him that. There's no way I'm not going to. There's 18 offers for him, so we might have to accept something higher, which is not great, but it is what it is. Goodwin we need to look into, and Oliviero. I think Oliviero will accept his qualifying offer easily. But I do not want to lose Goodwin, so Goodwin actually doesn't really fit our system that well, which is interesting. He's expecting $31 million a season. Wow. All right, we'll keep him there for the time being, but I hope he accepts. So let's see. Evans is prepared to accept an offer from the Warriors. Obviously, we're going to be matching that 3-year deal at $142 million. So it's not going to be as long-term, unfortunately, but obviously we're going to match that. And we're renouncing rights to Buchanan for sure. We're going to renounce rights to Kolomac as well. And then we're obviously going to cap hold Oliviero and Goodwin and Lance Lloyd. So let me actually write down Lloyd's name as well, just so I remember, in case these guys are still free agents at the start of the year, to bring them back. So let's advance. So I'll get obviously Evans on board. So Evans is already back, which is good because he's obviously the most important one. Let me go to Goodwin again for a second here. See if he's got any offers. He does have an offer, apparently. I don't know from who. But yeah, we're going to still work on getting him back for sure. It won't be a long-term deal, I guess. But Oliviero is probably not going to get any offers. And then Lloyd, I can't see really getting much either. But where is Oliviero? He's probably down very low because he's not that great of a player right now. He does have the potential to be good though, but why is it not showing the overalls of these players? I thought it would. Let's sort this alphabetically. I guess there he is. Yeah, Oliviero has one offer. It's only from us. Oh, that's probably the same for Goodwin then. Let's advance. Yeah, we're going to keep that the same. Yeah, that's good. Is there anybody that's going to reject these offers? Let's see. Goodwin is prepared to accept an offer from the OKC Thunder. Oh, boy. So we're going to have to match that offer on Herb Goodwin. He's actually going to get paid a lot of money, but he could really grow into being a really good player for us next season, so we got to hold on to him. So we're going to match that offer. So, yeah, Evans and Goodwin are going to be back for sure. We're still cap holding Oliviero, though, and also Lloyd. Lloyd is power forward. I got to make sure I know their positions, too, so I can actually find them easier. So power forward, and then Oliviero, obviously, we know is a center, so Let's advance on that. And now we're into free agencies. So let me go to, if we go to the contracts, contract extensions, are those guys going to show up there or not? I guess not. Where the heck does it show them? Is it going to have them in free agency still? Let's go to, I think they'll still show up here. It's probably going to try and get me to renounce rights, though, for some people. But obviously, we're going to try and not renounce rights for some people. So Olivero, let's actually go down to the other way. And yeah, he's going to be only getting his one offer from us still. So he'll probably accept an easily qualifying offer. I expect him to maybe get some growth, too. And then Lloyd is a power forward. Let's find him, too. Where is he? Wow, there's a couple Lloyds. There he is. Lance. He's a full-on UFA. So I'm going to negotiate a contract with him at minimum, because I think he's still a useful bench option for us. And that should be good. Who is the best player in the free agent department, actually? Why can't I see overalls of these players? I thought I used to be able to. I know I can see it on the top, but let me go back and go to this. There, now it's back by overall again. So I don't know if Chip Parker is a free agent. Maybe he's not. I was curious if he would sign anywhere or not. But yeah, we're obviously going to try and hold on to Lloyd and Olivero. So let's just keep going through free agency here. Lloyd's going to accept that minimum contract, which is great. Olivero should accept his qualifying offer easily, because there's not really a reason why he wouldn't. No other teams probably want him. So we should pretty much have everybody back for next season, which is great. Obviously, we're spending a lot of money on this team, but we're trying to keep the main core together. And then these bench options could kind of change out. But I don't know how I'm going to get everybody playing time right now. Olivero did not accept, because it would have showed up right there. So if I go back, can I look at free agents yet? No, I can't. I have to look at that at the start of the year. We got to bring Olivero back at the start of the year. So maybe it's just because we had too many people on the roster. I'm not too sure. But we'll definitely bring back Olivero if I could find him at the start of the season. So first and foremost, before we get to those points, though, we got some player progression. And this is the most exciting part of every offseason, in my opinion, other than the draft class. So let's just do a kind of a dramatic reveal here and see what we got here. So starting off with our point guards, Everett Carroll has continued to drop off a little bit. He's an 88 now. He is still good, but he's dropping off in like post defense and perimeter. His IQ is getting better though, but it's probably because he's getting older. But yeah, he's dropping off for sure. Washburn only went up to a 74, so he should maybe get some playing time this season as that backup point guard. He did play, I think, a little bit last year, but not a ton. And in Anderson, I'm not too sure what we're going to end up doing in terms of playing him, but he looks like he could be a pretty damn good prospect. And he could probably easily pass Washburn eventually. It looks like Washburn's potential might have dropped a bit, even though it doesn't say anything. And then in terms of our shooting guards, obviously Rex is the only shooting guard on this team, apparently. That is a full-on shooting guard. We could definitely play Anderson, I guess, as a shooting guard, too. But Rex is looking great. He didn't drop off or didn't grow at all. So he is probably capped out around a 93, but he's still fantastic, of course. Our small forwards, Evans went up 1 point to a 96. He's actually making less money right now than Wright is, but on less term. But still, Evans is very, very exciting, getting better in inside scoring, perimeter defense, playmaking, rebounding. He is maybe one of the highest overall players in the entire NBA. Semenko stayed the same overall, but he did drop off in inside scoring and post defense, which is kind of strange. Goodwin went up to an 86. Yeah, this is where we need to think about maybe freeing up some roster room at some point, because Goodwin should probably not be a 7th player on this roster, but he currently is. And there's other guys that are going to need playing time soon too. But Goodwin is getting better in inside scoring, mid-range, 3-point shooting, post defense, pretty much every single category, actually every single category. So that's why we re-signed Goodwin and we did not just let him go, because he's going to be really solid this year. I think he could easily be an over 10 point per game player if he gets more playing time. Bridges on a 77 overall now is really good too. That means we're going to have even better depth. He should be even better than 2.2 points per game, but he's only getting less than 10 minutes. So hopefully we can find a way to get him some playing time this year. We head on over to the power forwards. We have Westbrook, of course. He is still only an 86, so he's almost getting replaced basically by Goodwin too. Because Goodwin could play small forward and shooting guard. We could probably use Goodwin as the backup shooting guard, actually. That's not a bad idea. But yeah, Westbrook is dropping in post defense and athleticism. I think he's not really going to grow much more. He only has one more year left on his contract, I think, after the season too. So maybe he's going to leave. I'm not too sure. But Edward Carroll just dropped off in athleticism. Did get better in IQ, but I don't really expect him to grow much more. He's probably the type of guy that could leave to free agency relatively soon too. And then Lloyd's just another filler kind of player that might not get a lot of playing time this season. So it's just more in case if we get injuries, I guess. And in centers, we have obviously Bishop, who is getting better in mid-range shooting, apparently. Still a 90 overall. And then Morgan as that other option isn't great. This is where I would probably prefer Oliveira. So maybe I shouldn't have signed Tim Morgan to his contract, his rookie contract. So interesting. So yeah, our starting 7 is going to be absolutely absurd. And then Bridges, even as an 8th guy, is insane. Which means, like I said, probably less playing time for Carroll and Lloyd this season. And even probably for Washburn. But maybe I'd put Washburn above Carroll and Lloyd. So there is our offseason progression. Let's go through that. NBA Summer League, let's build out automatically because we don't really care too much about Summer League, but let's see what our team could do in Summer League and see how our young guys play. Hopefully our young guys have some good games because that's obviously what we're hoping for with their development. So our first game is against the Pacers. Let's simulate through that. And we end up winning that game 106-105, led by the likes of Joseph, who's not even a prospect of ours. Washburn was the best prospect, dropping 14. So that's a good. Bridges dropped 8, so he's still playing in that. Morgan played 20 minutes, had 9 rebounds. I think Morgan's a decent rebounding option off the bench too, but I think Oliveira had way better potential, so would probably rather keep Oliveira in that spot, maybe. I'm not too sure. I might not even be able to bring him back at this point, but what else we got here? What else do we got? The Spurs. Let's simulate through that game. And we win that one as well, 102-97. Led by that Joseph guy again, who's just a filler player, I guess, for Summer League. Undrafted 24-year-olds. Washburn dropped 15 points. Love to see that. Anderson dropped 7, 3, and 5. Then we also have Bridges on 5, 4, and 1. Morgan had 4 and 10. Damn, he had 10 rebounds in 19 minutes. See, Morgan is definitely the type of player that can get good rebounding, but he doesn't have a high ceiling to become much more than a good rebounder. So, what else we got here? We should have one more game in Summer League. Who are we facing in it? The answer will be probably, there it is, Portland. Portland, who had obviously 2 top 3 picks this year. It will be another win as we win 109-94. Led by this Kane guy, but Washburn dropped 15 more points. Bridges had 12, 7, and 3. Anderson 6, 4, and 7. Morgan had 5 rebounds in 21 minutes. Nothing really else. All right. So now how will this team do in terms of the actual Summer League playoffs is the real question. As we finished technically as, I think we should have been one of the better seeded teams, right? 13th. Damn, it's kind of surprising. But how do we do in our first game against San Antonio? We beat them, not a surprise. Not a surprise. We beat them earlier, so not really a surprise on that. Washburn dropped 15 points. Anderson dropped 12. I like to see that. Morgan had 8 rebounds off the bench. Bridges only played 19 minutes, but he had 8 rebounds and no points. All right. Yeah, Bridges is still an interesting player because he's not going to do much for you offensively, but looks like he could definitely still help us out with the rebounding. Next up, we played Denver. How do we do against Denver? We win that game as well, knocking out the Nuggets. Final score is 120-110, led by the likes of Anderson. Anderson's been pretty good, actually, in Summer League here so far. I'm excited to see how he does, because being a late first-round pick, he might be actually decent enough. Washburn on 13 as well. Bridges on 2, 4, and 1. Morgan on 9 rebounds again. Yeah, all Morgan does is rebound, which is interesting. All right, quarterfinals against the Bulls, who are 4-1 so far. We lose to them, unfortunately. That kind of sucks, but oh well. The Bulls beat us 116-102, so kind of convincingly. Kane dropped 18 points. Washburn had 17. Anderson had 16. So at least it was a good summer league for some of those guys like Anderson to show that he's maybe ready to play already. Yeah, he's looking like a decent player. I can't take a look at his stats per game, but I'm pretty sure he had around 15 points a game, which is pretty good. And look at Morgan, 15 rebounds in 20 minutes. Morgan is a really good player on the glass. It's insane. Here's his stats literally from Summer League. Look at all those rebounds. Barely any points, but 9, 10, 5, 8, 9, 15 rebounds. So he's kind of intriguing, to be honest, on that defensive note. I don't know how much playing time you get, but he's got good post defense and that rebounding. So he could be one of those useful players that just come in and play defense for us. But let's get Summer League simulated in. Cleveland wins the Summer League as they beat Phoenix in the finals. All right. So there's Summer League dealt with. FIBA Championship. Do we have any players playing in this? I don't really know. But let's assimilate through these games and see if anybody was representing these teams. If we can. Puerto Rico and Greece, we wouldn't really have anybody. Slovenia and Philippines, we wouldn't have anybody. Brazil and Austria. Or Australia? Yeah, Australia. I don't think we'd have anybody there either. Trying to see if there would be any representation. Or Spain and South Sudan. I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't know if we'll have any representatives other than maybe the United States and Canada. I don't think we even have any Canadians on our team. Let's see how that second day went. I don't think we have anybody on these teams, right? I always have to double check here. Looks like for the United States, oh yeah, Evans, of course, is on Team USA. I should have not been surprised on that. He dropped 20 points. So Evans is representing the United States. Same goes with Rex Wright. So Rex and Evans are over there. I love to see that. Bernard Russell also there, who plays for Washington, of course, right now. I think he still plays for Washington, right? I can't tell if that's Washington's jersey or not. I wonder if he signed somewhere else, but he's a 97 overall, which is insane. Anybody on Canada interesting? Still Shea. He's still playing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's just there's going to be people on the United States because I don't know if Sweden's in this because I don't know if our young guys would be in this at all or anything. But let's just get through this and find out who ends up winning. So Germany will play South Sudan, USA, and Puerto Rico, I think that is. And then you have Slovenia, Australia, and France and Canada. Okay, well, let's find out who wins this. So USA and South Sudan, and it'll be France and Australia. So Canada got eliminated already. It'll be USA versus Australia in the finals. Who will win? The United States. Not really a surprise. As our boys win the championship, Rex and Evans, both of them played around 30 minutes. Both dropped around 17 points, too. These two guys are like kind of almost like a dynamic duo, so I really like that a lot. So shout out to those guys for winning it all in the FIBA. Let's see, advance on that. And final few things of the offseason in New York. Knicks will be hosting the All-Star game as it will be in New York this season. Interesting one there. Auto-generate rookies, of course, for the draft class. We don't care about the 2K Hoop Summit because we're not going to be focusing on that right now. And that means advanced next season. And I think, can I sign free agents already before this, though? I want to double check on this if Oliveira is still free agent or not. No, I can't. I have to do it actually once the season starts, so let's get to that. And let's see if Oliveira is still free agent. I don't know if I have the contract room to actually bring him back, but if we go to... I honestly might not be that worried about bringing him back because he was a second rounder after all. But where do we go again? Contracts, free agents. Here we go. So if we go to centers, where is Mr. Oliveira? Is he still a free agent is the real question. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. 73 overall, so he did get some growth in the offseason too. He doesn't really fit our scheme fit that much, but it would be kind of nice to bring him back. What's his potential looking like now? Let's see. What's his potential looking like now? Still a B-. He is already 23. He doesn't really fit our team that well. You know what? I think I'm going to be okay with not bringing him back. I could bring him back in a later year if we want to bring back former players, but I think for now it's fine. Because we're heavily reliant on our top guys anyways. So this is what the coach has planned, but is it what we have planned? Not fully. Not fully. I guess we could play Evans at power forward still. And we could kind of swap Westbrook and Semenko around. Those guys are definitely interchangeable. Goodwin is definitely still really good too. I like him a lot, but he's going to get elevated minutes. Same with Bridges. All right, looks like the only ones not getting a lot of minutes would be Washburn. There is also Jamon Hernandez that the game signed us, so we are definitely going to be letting him go off the bench, and we'll bring back Oliveiro. So I guess I did still need another player, but I didn't realize it. So we'll go to our roster here and get rid of that Fernandez guy, or Hernandez, because he's not a prospect of mine. We're going to release him to free agency. They just signed us because we needed, I guess, more shooting guards, but we will bring back Oliveiro, which is good. I'd rather him off the bench than some guy that I did not draft, so let's bring back Oliveiro. I'm surprised he didn't accept his qualifying offer, but let's negotiate contract. 1-year deal, take the 3.34. There you go, perfect. Now if we go back to our game plan again, it's obviously going to reset, which is kind of annoying, but we'll swap this around. That's good. And then, yeah, Oliveira wouldn't be getting any playing time. Washburn has no playing time either. Anderson as well. I don't even know how I could get some of these younger guys more playing time. I could swap Lloyd and Washburn probably around, considering we have already Edward Carroll as a power forward as well. Lloyd's not really that bad off the bench, though, either. Let's see. What is his... Let's see, what was I looking for again? Oh, yeah, his stats. 6.5 points per game, but that's averaging 14 minutes. When he was averaging 17.9, he got 8.3. Tough to say if he deserves those minutes. So, Washburn has good potential, though, too. And he was a first rounder. Can I just give these guys both minutes? Yeah, we'll both give them 5 minutes apiece. And then, yeah, Oliveira won't have any playing time yet. Anderson won't. And Morgan won't. I want Anderson to get playing time, kind of, but with how deep our starting 7 is, there's nothing I could really do about that. So, this will be our starting rotation. And I think this team, obviously, since we got even more growth from Evans, I think this team could easily run it back again this season, which is exciting. But obviously, there's going to be soon players that leave this team probably. But honestly, I think Goodwin could be a starter on this roster for sure. But right now, he's a 7th guy, which is insane. So we should probably be the top team in terms of power ranking and all that going into the season, I would assume. Can I even take a look at the power rankings? I don't think it's updated yet, but I want to see this. Yeah, obviously we'd be at number 1 because we won the championship last season. And we are not the number 1 GM in terms of power rankings. The Houston Rockets have the number 1 power ranking GM. Probably because of their trades they made in the offseason or something. Because we didn't do any offseason trades. And that has us all the way down at dead last. Because we have not made any deals. So that's probably why we're not trending upwards. But early in the season, we're going to jump up a lot. Because our team is going to be absolutely killer. Because having an 86 as a 7th guy is probably as good as some teams have on their starting rotation. So that's kind of exciting. Lastly, I did want to go to the entire league here stuff for a second in terms of roster. Can I see all the players? Yes, I can. Did anybody sign with a different team out of the big major guys? Like, did Chip Parker sign anywhere else? Dante Dunleavy, I think, might have changed teams. Did he? No, he's been always with Milwaukee. I was thinking of Clay Dunleavy, who's still in Utah. But yeah, Evans is tied for the 2nd best player in the league. There's Simon Lydon, of course. Cooper Flagg. Draymond Green Jr. is getting a lot of growth as well. Where is Chip Parker? There he is. Okay, see, he did resign in Charlotte. I thought he was going to go to free agency, but he decides to stay with them. And he's getting paid a ton of money. Wow, a ton of money. And he has a player option in 2039. So he might be a career-long Hornet at this point. But yeah, those are like the best players in the league, in case you guys were wondering. Bernard Russell's apparently the best of the best, but I think Evans will overpass him at some point in time. Evans is by far the youngest out of these players, too. Him and Draymond Green Jr. Were they in the same draft class? 3rd in 2031, and yeah, 1st in 2031. They're both part of the same class. Damn, that's insane. That's insane. Yeah, obviously Evans is a beast in everything. He has really no weakness other than his rebounding, which is a B minus. Wow. All right, let's go. Let's freaking go. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft to Glory MyNBA. So, in next episode, we will simulate another season. Hopefully, this team stays healthy. If it doesn't, at least it gives more playing time to some of the bench options. But this team should also easily win the entire league during the regular season again. Playoffs, we should obviously have a really good playoffs ahead as well. But obviously, there is some teams that are making some noise in the offseason, like Houston added a lot of good players. So I'm kind of interested to see how tough they are compared to us. But I think our team definitely can make another run for another championship this season. So, sing down below, and I'll see you guys next time.